All right. For the audience that doesn't know you, feel free to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Kyle Chisamore. I'm mostly known for my trading. I've been trading for about 5 years now. I would say professionally 5 years now, but there's been a little bit of time before that where you wouldn't really consider me a trader, where you're not really making any money. Um, but yeah, I was able to turn a very small amount of like about $26 to 40 Bitcoin, which is now worth around like 2.7 million, which has completely changed my life. And I'd say it took hundreds of trades, but there's like two core trades that I did that really brought me to the level that I'm at today. And one trade grew my account from like 10K to close to 30K. And then the next trade was the big one that brought it from like 30K to basically the 2.7 million I'm at now. But that is basically my story summarized in a nutshell. I hated my job enough to try to figure out a way to kind of break free from the chains of like the 9 to 5. So I had enough debt where my income wasn't outpacing the debt. So I need to find a scalable solution, and trading is a very scalable solution. Once you figure out the ropes and all the rules behind it, it just becomes a game, and you just make up rules for the game, and you do not enter a trade unless all those rules are met. And when they're met, you jump in, and then you start printing money like Powell does, basically. So it's intense.
Well,
Yeah,
let's start off with making $2 million. So you wake up one day, or was this like a very slow process of slowly making $2 million, or was it slow and then very intense?
it's slow. So when you're trading with, let's say, for example, $100, you are risking to lose $1 to gain $2 or more. And most scenarios, you're going to be making about $2. And sometimes you'll make $4, sometimes you make $5, and sometimes you'll have a big winner, when you make $10. But it's a slow grind until you get to about, I would say, a $15,000 account. A lot of people can actually, I don't recommend it, but a lot of people can actually quit their job after reaching a $15,000 account based on the average person's expenses. You can make, you at that point, you're risking to lose $150 to gain $300 or more. And if you compound all those gains into your account, it grows at an extremely fast pace. If you can find a reason to never have to withdraw those funds and just let it grow, it becomes fast paced from there. And when you're at like $100,000 account, then it's just you whatever you earn in a month usually outpaces your previous lifestyle. Like, I still have a poor boy lifestyle. I don't spend money very often. I try to find any excuse I can not to. So my income outpaces my expenses like by like fivefold, and that allows me to like grow my account a lot faster too.
Well, one question I have is when you make $2 million, because you've made a substantial amount of money that most people never even see in their lives, let alone in assets in a bank account or in any amount. So wait, how is the money stored? Is it in Bitcoin or is it in a bank account now? If you're comfortable
So
with it.
yeah, I can share everything, man. So with my bank account, I only keep, depends on the expense, but I'm really frugal. So I have like a whole bunch of little accounts within my bank account, and each account represents an expense that I have. And so I only keep the amount required to cover 3 to 6 months of each expense in my bank account. The rest of it's all in Bitcoin. And I have like a cold storage system that I keep everything in. And I don't keep very much on exchanges, because there's risk that exchange can go under. And when they go under, your funds go under with them, right? So now that ever since the FTX crash, I'm not sure if you ever heard of that, but ever since that event, some people have created a new form of technology called like Merkle root technology that allows you to track reserves in the exchange. And by being able to track the reserves, you're kind of like able to track the bank in a sense, like how well the exchange is doing. And if you find any reason that they're not doing well, you can actually withdraw your funds safely before any bad things were to occur. And by an exchange showing you their reserves, you can have more confidence that they're safer because they wouldn't show you anything unless things were safe. So a really good suggestion to anyone who wants to learn how to trade is just make sure that you're trading an exchange that is willing to share the reserves. Because if they're not, it usually means they're hiding something.
So there's a saying that when you win the lottery, you learn how big your family is, right? So, and considering you're laughing at this, do you relate at all to that sentence of that when you get a lot of money, you tend to realize how many people actually know who you are?
Yeah. So you'll start getting some messages from people that you never spoke to in years. Usually it's the people from high school that you know deep in your heart that they might not do very well after high school. You know what I mean? Those are kind of people that have been messaging me. But like in terms of like close family, they don't really ask for anything. What I prefer to do for my family instead of just like giving them money is like teaching them how to do it themselves. So the knowledge so that they can support themselves to grow the same way that I did. So yeah, so I know what you mean by that. But yeah, a lot of strangers or people that you've ever spoken to in years just randomly start popping up your DMs asking $20, $40, $1,000, sometimes $40,000. You're like, what? Okay, dude, we've been spoken in years. But,
So,
yeah.
when you made your money, right? Like when you first made, well, not first made. I mean, I don't know how much money you really have, like, but I'm gonna estimate, let's say, okay, actually, here, let me ask you this: have you made more money, or at least in a substantial amount more money than just the 2.7 million?
Not really, actually. So before I started trading, like I was actually dirt poor. Yeah, like I said before, man, I had like next to no money. So really my main source of income is just trading income. And I use those funds and recycle it to invest in long-term positions. Then those long-term positions last between like 2 to 4 years. And I do the trades. And the trading today, I usually make between 16 and 30K a month, which is far more than I used to make per year before I started trading. But no, man, I've tried business after business after business after business to try to figure out a way to get out of like the chains, and they were all like failures until like trading, like your startup funds is whatever you have in your pocket. You don't need a giant. You don't have to worry about overhead costs. You know what I mean? Your overhead costs is your knowledge gap. The less you know, the more expensive trading is going to be. And that's where you get more mistakes, or you don't know how to do proper risk management. So like trading is one of those things where like the more you know, the more you get paid, and you get an instantaneous result. So it encourages you to learn all the time. And it's not just about learning how to trade, it's also about learning how to improve yourself, like your mindset, your diet, anything that can help you improve your focus. But yeah, man, nothing more than the 2.7 million actually. Obviously, I'm making more money each month, and it's growing and growing until eventually the the bull cycle ends, and then my income will, my long-term holdings will be basically pulled out, and I just focus on the short-term stuff until the next bull run occurs.
So, what was the time or the moment where you realized you've made it? Because everybody for their entire lives wants financial freedom and the ability to do whatever they want and have not endless amounts of money, but as much money as they think that they would need or want. Now, you are not a big spender, so I can say that you probably reached that. So at what point did you say that you've reached rich, right? Or that you've reached like the peak and you're like, all right,
So
I've made my money.
I gotcha. There's actually been 2.5 moments. How to explain? I'm like a huge goal setter, and when I first started trading, my goal was to reach 3.5 million, and like that is when I will be considered, in my opinion, everyone's opinion is a little bit different. In my opinion, I'll be financially free at that point, because then I could put my funds into dividend providing stocks, and the income that I receive from those every quarter would be enough to basically cover my expenses threefold every quarter. That's when I feel like I've completely made it. But I've had some moments before where I'm like, this is it. This is the moment. And that, like, I would say when I hit the $15,000 account and I quit my job a little bit too soon. And I was a martingale trader, which means I never traded with a stop loss at that time. I never really accepted a loss, if that makes sense. So I dollar cost averaged a lot. And when you do that, you have a really, really high win rate until you don't, and you can lose your entire account. And I lost half my account off that one mistake. And that was right after I quit my job. So that aha moment where I felt like I made it, ended up shooting myself in the foot by doing that, because I wasn't fully prepared. I didn't have the emergency funds. So I had to go back to working. And the job that I did after I came back to working was Uber, which in my opinion is actually a really good job for anyone who wants to be a trader, because you can, while you're waiting for your trip, for the app to notify you to pick someone up, you can learn how to trade, you can trade, all that stuff. So you give yourself free time. So you're basically freelancing while you're trying to figure out the rest. And then I learned what I was missing. And when I learned what I was missing, I was actually outpacing any of the income that I could make from Uber. And I realized, okay, I need to quit my job because the amount that I'm making is surpassing what I make from Uber. So I can basically say that that job is costing me money. It's costing me opportunity costs. I'm missing out on trades because I'm driving people around instead of looking at the charts. So, and that was another point where I felt like I've made it, because like I can actually confidently say I could stay at home with my family, wait for a trade alert to go off, only look at the screen when it's appropriate, then enter when all my rules are met, and I'm set.
So, yeah, go on.
No, that's pretty much it. Like at a $300,000 account, that's when I felt like I was truly, truly free. But when when I get to my main priority goal, which is 3.5 million, then I can actually say I can stop trading if I wanted to. I could stop doing everything and just let the investments pay me every quarter.
So, what do you think the biggest or most substantial change to your life ever since getting $2.7 million?
I bought a house. I bought this really fancy studio. This studio is actually in my backyard. It used to be a shed. I would say that was the big thing. And being able to like say yes to my kids a lot more. Like if they want to like go out and do something, like so long as like they're good behavior, of course, we can go out and do something really cool. Just having the ability to just go out and do whatever we want. And I think that's pretty freaking cool. So that was probably the biggest change. Like being able to like just not have to count pennies, you know, just to make sure that you can actually go out and do something and worry about the bills. If you go out and do something, I would say that's the biggest change, I would say.
What's the biggest lesson that you've learned since reaching your success?
So million lessons to be honest, but I stay humble. Like especially as a trader, because the market will humble you pretty quick if you get too cocky. Like for example, like some people will have a high win rate. They'll win quite a bit. They'll win like 7 trades in a row, and then on the 8th trade, they'll put in way more than they usually do because they feel like they've mastered it. And then that's when the market decides to like humble you, and you end up losing more than what you gained in the last 7 trades because you committed too much funds to it. Staying consistent and patient. If anything, the market and trading and investing teaches you patience more than anything. If you're not patient and you rush into things and you make emotions dictate what your money does, it always ends up being usually like a losing battle. You have your emotions to dictate what you do in terms of your actions and stuff.
So, what do you think the biggest mistake that new traders make? Is it just like cockiness, arrogance, like you were saying, that a lot of new traders make? Like, what's the biggest mistake that they end up losing money on?
So yeah, a really, really common mistake that beginners will do is they won't back test what they learn. There's a cool feature on a platform called TradingView, which is think of it like an application that allows you to chart things. And there's a little feature on it that allows you to do replay mode, which essentially think of it like going back in time. The charts kind of reset to the moment that you want it to, and you can practice as much as you want in that mode without it being in a real live environment. And what people will do when they first start is they'll start pressing that long position button or sell button or buy or sell button, whatever, before even testing what their capabilities are. And if marketing, trading is all about data. If you can set up a set of rules for yourself, like an RSI divergence or being at the bottom of value area before you think about entering a long position, and you test every single time that occurs in the market, you can find out how often you'll win or how often you'll lose. And that data can transform your life and give yourself the confidence you need. If you only need to win 40% of your trades to be profitable. But some people will jump into the market not realizing that they don't even have data. They don't even know what their win rate is. And so they'll jump in with that lack of knowledge, and it ends up giving them a lack of confidence too. So they close their trades too soon. They don't know what their statistical probability is. So I would say a big thing that beginners just fail at doing is just testing what they learn. Even just a double bottom formation, the easiest thing to learn in trading. It just looks like a giant W on your screen. They just statistically break to the upside, and they give you a perfect measurable target. If you just practice that tiny little thing on replay mode and just do 200 samples, 200, just basically 200 little tiny trades, and seeing how often you win those setups, you can then say, okay, there's a 50% chance that I will win this trade with double bottom formations based on how I practiced trading them. And that is enough data to tell you you're profitable, because when you're doing proper risk management, you're risking to lose, for example, $1 to gain $2. So if you win 50% of the time, your gains will outweigh those losses. And it just becomes basic math. You're going to be making money at the end of each month, and you're going to allow your account to scale and grow. That's just one of a million examples. You can set up a whole bunch of different rules for yourself, or learn what other people's strategies, and then just practice it, find out how well you are doing it, and then you give yourself that edge that you need in the market.
What do you think your biggest regret is?
Biggest regret?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, man, I would say my biggest regret was I think I could have gotten to where I'm at much, much faster if I took my losses as lessons. If you lose a trade, it's an opportunity. And a lot of people don't realize that. You can find out why you lost. Just go back to the trade that you just did and see what you've missed. Was there a level of resistance that's there that you weren't aware of? And then maybe that means you need to pay more attention to those kinds of resistances. For me, I kept losing some short-term trades, not realizing what an order book was. and that there's a bunch of people that are preparing to sell at certain levels that you can actually monitor and watch. So I would say, yeah, I wish I like listened to my losses a lot more when I first started and use them as lessons, because it evolves you as a trader and as a person much faster, rather than the people that just ignore it. And I ignored it for like, I say the first like 3 to 6 months of trading.
What advice do you have for young people in general?
Young people, I'd say start now. Like, whether it be like investing, it doesn't have to be trading, like just investing, or whatever, I guess whatever it is you want to do in life, man. Just there's the only thing that holds you back is yourself. If you want to go out and do something, don't think about your limitations. Think about like the opportunity, the adventure that you can get from it, because you age fast. Like I started doing this, I think I was like 26, no, like 31 now. If I can go back in time, I would wish I started trading when I was like 20. And then there's people that like join my community and that are like 18 years old. I'm like, I envy them, because by the time they're like 25, they're going to be like gods in this space. So yeah, just start now, man. Whatever you want to do.
So, why did you go public with all of this? Because normally people that make tremendous amounts of money, especially in private, are like, it's a kind of a legend where it's like you never know how much somebody's worth. So why go public? Why make your net worth known?
So I initially, it wasn't my intent at all. So I started a company called InvestorShare, and it was like free entry. Anyone could jump in. And it was literally just made for myself, so I could have people to talk to and learn with on trading, because like trading is insanely lonely. A lot of businesses are. You have no one to talk to or no one to improve with. And if you have more minds working at something, you tend to exceed far faster. Like Mr. Beast is a good example of that. Like, he has a team of friends and they all like work together like a focus group, try to find any ways they can improve as much as they can on YouTube. It's the same kind of concept with trading. I made a community that was free, everyone can jump in on, just so we can learn together. And that was like basically when I first started trading. It was like only about 6 or 7 months or so after I started trading that I started that. And then eventually like the group scaled and grew, and they all tried to convince me to start charging. So I started charging. And then eventually I met Max Maher, which is probably where you probably heard from me from. Like, he wanted to interview me about my process, and that's kind of how I went full out public, I guess I would say.
So Max met you through the company.
Yeah, it's like I was working with InvestShare on my own, and then he found me through a connection with my friend of mine, and then I started helping with his community, and now we're actually merged. Our companies are merged, so now I work exclusively under Finova, and yeah, it escalated pretty quickly. Like, just going from like my own company to then eventually becoming a part of like his, and now we're joined together as a partnership and just helping through Finova. But yeah, when I joined him under his team, he wanted to interview me to help other people understand like the scalability behind trading. And of course, it was a really cool video idea, and ended up getting a lot of views. That really helps a lot of people like understand like the trading is, a lot of people give up hope pretty quickly when it comes to trading, and the intent of the video is just to kind of help bring that hope back and show people if you just have a good concrete set of rules, and we shared all those rules in that video, and you could become like basically a professional investor, maybe not a professional trader, but a professional investor with a very few amount of data points, and it'd be extremely profitable. Like there's only 4 rules that I follow with knowing when we're at the absolute bottom or the absolute top for a market cycle. And it's pretty intense how easy it could be after you just be patient and just wait for those rules to be met. Sometimes, man, those the rules I'm talking to you about right now, like those 4 core rules, they can take 2+ years to be met before you get a chance to buy it. And if you want to make sure you're getting the bottom, you just got to sit on your hands and wait. And your goal while you're waiting is just to accumulate as much funds as you can that you can safely invest into either Bitcoin or the S&P 500 or whatever asset you want to choose. Every asset has a set of rules that you could build for yourself to tell you that once these are all met, statistically, it has a 90% chance or 100% chance of being right. But they're only right. They only happen once every 2 or 3 years. And yeah.
Who is the most successful student you've ever had? Or how much money did they make? That's a more interesting question of how much money did they make?
I would say it's funny because I don't know if he wants me to tell his name, but his Discord handle was Bun. And he, very short amount of time, I think about 6 months, 6 or 7 months, he grew an $850 account to $1 million. And it started off by him following my signals. When I enter, I usually tell people when I enter, and when I get out, I tell everyone when I get out. But under the intent that I'm teaching them why I'm entering. Because I don't just say I'm buying or what I'm selling. I explain why. I explain why I'm selling too. And he picked up everything pretty quickly and grew to $1 million in within 6 or 7 months. So I would say that was the most successful student. There's others that I would consider successful under different reasons, not just about the money. There's this one student. It's hard to consider him a student. Like he came in to invest brand new, not completely brand new to trading, but now he's like a coach and teaches people how to trade, and so he's helping other people make money. And his name is Thesis, and he hasn't grown his account to insane levels like Bun did, but he is able to turn a tiny amount, like $50, into 4 or 5 grand within a month to cover all the expenses, and then he restarts every single month over and over again. And now from what he knows, he was able to use his knowledge to help others do the same.
So, do you think that I'm just plugging in my computer? Sorry, give me 1 second.
Okay.
I was just saying that because you're also the only person, I'm gonna say this, you're the only person I think that I've interviewed that made millions of dollars legally, because basically everybody else I've interviewed, I interviewed one guy, he made, at the height of his net worth and ill-gotten gains, it was like $100 million, right?
Wow.
And then there was another guy who committed $55 million in mortgage fraud. And then there was another guy that I interviewed who committed $4.5 million in credit card fraud.
Jeez.
Now, when I asked the guy Barry, who's one of the more recent ones, who sold $100 million, I asked him, I'm like, how did it feel to have a net worth of $100 million? And then, he goes, look, when Steve Jobs gets $100 million, he's very happy and proud of himself. When I got $100 million, every phone call could have been my end because it was all in ill-gotten gains. Yeah. So would you agree that when you get $2 million, what did you feel? What was the feeling? Was it pride? Was it maybe even humility? Maybe was it wow, I have all this money? What was your first thought upon realizing you have $2.7 million?
When I closed the trade that allowed, so it was a trade that went from, so there's this type of trading style called inverse perpetual trading, where you are putting in the asset as collateral rather than like a stable coin like USDT. And the asset that I chose was obviously Bitcoin. And so I was using that asset as collateral. So I was earning more and more and more of that asset instead of dollars as it went up. And when I closed half of it, half that trade, I made like 7 Bitcoin from it. That just from that one, like that partial close, I felt like this could be it. I could have scaled to the point where I could actually have true financial freedom soon. And then when I closed the other half of it, it's about 14 Bitcoin. And that was around like the time when Bitcoin was at like 40 some K. Like it's a tough thing to like explain, but I'm still holding those Bitcoins. I haven't like realized the gains on them in the sense where like they've gone into my bank account. And so I'm only paying myself a little bit each month. Like I'm not withdrawing a whole bunch of it. So I guess it'll probably be a much different feeling once it's in my bank account. I end up having to pay taxes on it and all that stuff. But yeah, man, I would just say like you feel more invincible to all the conditions that's going on in the world. Like everyone has like that feeling of vulnerability that the shoe could drop and then you could lose everything. Like you can even have it with $2 million. You end up, no matter how much money you have, you'll always think of scenarios to prepare yourself for and how much money you're going to need to prepare yourself for that scenario. And like when you're a millionaire or a billionaire, it's probably like the doomsday scenario at that point. I need to buy myself a $1 million bunker or something like that. Your expenses mentally in preparation for the worst case scenarios is going to scale with the amount of funds that you have. And some people will end up doing what's called like life inflation. I'm not that person. I've kind of trained myself beforehand. The life inflation is basically when you start scaling your expenses based on the amount of money that you have. Like you start buying a Lamborghini or something like that, and then you end up having to pay like, I don't know, like $20,000 a month on insurance. Who knows how much those things cost? But yeah, yeah, man, I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place with my speech today, but yeah, I'd say I'm still preparing for like really bad scenarios, and I would feel more free once I get to like my proper goal where I can actually earn passive income, and then by sitting around, if I got sick and something happened to me, I know that my investments can cover my family. Right now, today, if that were to happen to me, I don't feel confident enough that my investments will cover my family. So I haven't got to that moment yet where I feel like I'm fully invincible. But I do feel a lot more vulnerable than I did before.
So I believe that the number one highest dividend paying stock is AT&T, if I'm not mistaken. It's around, I believe it's AT&T because they pay something pretty ridiculous, I think, per share, like 18 cents per share, I think. It might be more than that, or it might be less. I haven't checked it in a while. But why not? Why because we have 2.7, I'm just doing the math in my head, $2.7 million. Let's say you even had 10 cents per stock. That's 2,700 per month in dividends. Now that's more money that you can be making right now in dividends, or I'm sorry, in any amount with the Bitcoin. So why not invest it now? Why are you waiting?
Because I outperform the market. So with my gains, when I do a trade, I usually make about 2% per day by doing my regular day trading. And that's more than what a dividend could provide me right now. Like ever. So I can essentially make in 2 trades what a dividend can give me in a year. So what I am preparing for at this moment is the top. I believe that Bitcoin, based on the data that I have, that it's going to reach around between 120 and 164,000 by the end of the cycle. At that point, I'm going to sell them and put them into, and I'm going to start allocating them into dividend stocks. But at that point, we're going to be in a bear market, and stuff like AT&T, everything is going to suffer. Everything's going to go down. So I'll be waiting for the bottom before I invest in it when this cycle ends. So it's probably gonna be 2 years, man, before I actually buy the dividends, even if I have the proper amount of funds to retire. Because I want to make sure that when I'm buying those funds, those stocks, that I'm buying it in an area of strength that I know that my capital will grow, and not just the capital of the stocks that I purchased. I want the valuation to increase while I'm getting those dividend returns. If I were to buy it like around this time, between now and where I'm anticipating the top's going to be around November, then I am giving myself exposed to potential losses. And then as the stock goes down in value, so does the dividend return. It is based on the amount of the dollar ownership that you have of that asset that dictates what kind of dividends that you get. So just being, like I said before, man, patience. I'm just waiting for the right moment. It's too soon right now.
So this might sound a little random, but like, how well do you sleep at night? Now, what I mean by that is like, how great is your anxiety? Like, because when you make $2 million, right? The biggest fear on your mind, I would imagine, is losing that money, right? Especially when you yourself have said that you've been broke before. So, I would imagine for me, my biggest fear would be, I don't want somebody doing this with my money, right? I would only trust myself with my money and would always be on my head at all times, I feel like. So how well would you say like you sleep? How's your anxiety? Like I'm using that as a metaphor for saying like how anxious are you? Scale 1 to 10.
I have anxiety for different reasons. I wouldn't lose if I lost all of my money today, like every dime, and I just managed to grab like $1,000 somehow. If I had to work for a little bit in order to get it, I could do it all over again, but at a much faster pace, because it's a skill that you can do in any environment. Even if crypto went down and it all just came crumbling tomorrow, I could still transfer what I know into like the stock market. So long as the financial markets exist, I won't have that type of anxiety. Like most of my anxiety that I get is about like the stuff I can try to do for the community. Like I have this massive to-do list that I want to get stuff done. And so long as I have a to-do list, I have anxiety. I want to get it all done all the time. And I think about all the ways I can get it finished. And that keeps me up all the time. So I'm not really worried about like losing the funds, because the funds are kind of like tied to a skill that allows me to like get those funds back. It would suck, obviously. It would suck a lot. And there's a lot of people have that fear of overexposing themselves to the market and then having to depend on the health of the market for their wealth and for those, like some people like, but honestly, it's one of those things where you just can't allow fear. If you're ever feeling fearful, you've probably heard this saying before, it's time to be greedy. That, like, people end up usually doing the opposite. When they're scared, they end up pulling all their funds out and accepting a large loss. Where if I start seeing everyone freaking out, I look for something on the charts to tell me that I should be bullish, like meaning I should be buying something. So during times of weakness, you should be trying to invest in the market. And when everyone's happy and everything's like doing really, really well, you should be thinking about taking some of those profits. So I've kind of trained my emotions in terms of like how my funds are doing in a way where I don't really need to have a hard time sleeping at night, because I have alarms set for certain levels in the market. If one of those alarms go off, then I'll just go to my computer and sell everything and prepare to rebuy. So I have alarms that allow me to sleep, if that makes sense.
So what does your everyday schedule look like for a multimillionaire such as yourself?
Uh, so like everyday schedule from like the moment I wake up is I fast, so I don't usually eat in the morning. I look at the charts. It used to take me like a few hours to do analysis on something, and now I can look at a screen and it takes me 5 minutes. I set my alarms, and then I can do whatever tasks I want, whether it be spend time with my family or work on stuff for the community until a market alarm goes off. If that alarm goes off, that means something's happened in the chart that I'm trying to prepare for. And then I'll babysit it for about 45 minutes to see if it's actually doing what I want to do before I enter into a trade. So really, being a trader is like being on call for a job. You just look at something, you see what the sentiment kind of looks like, if it's going to likely go down or go up. You set alarms for both scenarios because you can't see the future. And then you just do whatever you want until those alarms go off. And the life of a day trader is very boring. There's nothing really much to it. But the cool part is like you spend the time while you're waiting for those alarms to go off to improve yourself and learn as much as you want. And for example, right now I'm learning as much as I can about real estate because I know I can give myself a huge tax incentive by investing in real estate. The tax codes are usually built around trying to reduce taxes on anyone who invests in real estate. So just learning while I'm waiting.
All right. I think we've gotten a good interview. All right.
All right.
I'm gonna stop the recording. I'm still recording, right, by the way, but I'm gonna stop the
Yeah, I gotcha.
recording. You have any final words for the audience? Because I really like having you on. I just want to say that too.
Final words for the audience. I would say I might need to edit this pause out. Sorry. Yeah, I'd say don't give up. If you're wanting to become a day trader, don't give up just because you had a loss. And like I said before in the beginning of the interview, like take every loss as a lesson, and it'll allow you to scale to the type of trader that you want to become. And don't think about the knowledge gap because you're going to learn things in stages. And those stages are going to start with like market structure, like learn market structure first. And then like risk management, and then build a set of rules around that, and then you have like a huge edge in the market. Yeah, I know that's not a very good answer, but honestly, yeah, just don't give up because you had like one loss or a few losses.
All right. I appreciate you having you on. All right. I'm gonna stop the recording in 3, 2, 1.